At what age did you lose your virginity? Story 1. 13. Yes to the entire relationship. I wish I could take back every moment I spent with her. I've never hated anyone as much as I hate her now. Edit. Change 13 to 13 because mine also posted as 1 the first time. Edit 2. Okay, I talked about this in another sub but I won't make everyone go look for it, so it's story time. I'll try to keep it brief. Lost my virginity at 13. We broke up at 14 because, yes, she cheated on me. But that isn't why I hate her. In fact, I forgave her for that. And we still talked in school occasionally. Then her new boyfriend sucker punched me one day after class for talking to his girlfriend. His punch wasn't as strong as he hoped, and I chased him off campus. I got him suspended, and the next day I was called into the principal's office. I found her, the principal and a sheriff's deputy, with cuffs in hand, waiting for me. She told them I raped her. She tried to have me branded as an offender and thrown in jail because I got her boyfriend a 3-day suspension. That is why I hate her. That is why I've hated her for the last 13 years. That is why I will hate her for the rest of my life. As I said in the other sub, I hope she dies old, miserable and alone. Edit 3. Just want to clarify that I did not get arrested or charged. When I told the deputy I got her boyfriend suspended and she couldn't provide details of what happened, he figured out she was lying and told us that rape is a serious offense and not to be taken lightly. Told us to stay away from each other and left. Story 2. I was 11. It was with my neighbor friend's sister. I think she was 10. It started with us just exploring our bodies and expanded from there. We were both quite sexual but way inexperienced, obviously. When it happened, we were out by the tree in the front yard of our fourplex. We had put sheets up around the tree to create a fort. It was just my friend and his sister and me. I remember we were talking about corn, and I think he brought in a corn magazine of his stepdad's, which certainly got us going. We spoke of doing stuff and then she agreed to putting my yeah in her mouth. We started with that as her brother watched, which was weird, but Then we agreed to go up into my room, and that's when we did it. Her brother again watched, which, in retrospect, is absolutely awful, but we did it a few more times over the next few months and then they moved. I feel guilty even today. She had leukemia at the time and that made my guilt worse. As I got older, I hated myself more for it. I did search her on Facebook and she's still alive, which is awesome. She's also really close with her brother. No comment on that. Story 3. I was 15 and she was 17, I'm pretty sure. We had met fairly recently and gone on a couple dates. Up until this point we hadn't done much with each other besides making out and copping some feels you dig. Well, one night after dating a couple weeks things got a little wild. Neither of us could drive at this point, so our dates had to involve places where we could get dropped off, do as much as possible, and then get picked back up. We decided to go to a town center of sorts to get dinner, and then see a movie. Forget what was for dinner, but I want to say we went to this pizza place that has some killer freaking pizza. But that is pretty irrelevant. So after dinner we walk over to the theater, get our tickets to whatever the movie was. I think it was The Fog, and it was a piece of crap. At that age it doesn't really matter what is on because horny teenagers spend more time making out and pushing the boundaries as far as possible. So the movie ends and we reluctantly walk out of the theater. Not being satisfied with calling our parents to come get us, we have a perfect idea. Let's go walk into an empty theater so we can continue making out. So we walk into one that's empty. That wasn't good enough, we decided, so I grabbed her hand and we ended up walking behind the movie screen. I'm not sure what we expected, but it's a fairly small place. Between the wall and the screen is maybe about 8 feet. There is industrial equipment and crap, some cabling, boxes, etc. So after making out and doing almost everything but doing it, we notice the screen has turned on and began playing the previews before the next movie comes on. We're both thinking WTF, but frick it, we weren't done. So we keep fooling around and somehow we kind of mutually agree we are going to do it behind this movie theater screen. During a movie on the fricking dirty floor. She was wearing a skirt, which made it much easier. Now I had to take my pants off, so if someone did come find us it would have been pretty damn weird. So here we are laying on this fricking floor making out, groping each other and crap, and then I went for it. I was 15, nervous as hell, but also the most stoked I have ever been in my life because crap, I'm finna get my D wet. So we end up in missionary for a couple minutes. I'm about to bust a nut right away, so I try to slow things down. Pull out, finger her some more and make out, just trying for the life of my not to come right then and there. So after a couple minutes of cooling down we end up trying to do doggy style. I seriously didn't know really what I was doing. Half put my junk in her butt and she quickly corrected that. Now at the time I did not know the wonders of doggy style, but after like 4/5 pumps I was about to burst like palm freaking pay. Didn't have a condom on, so I pull out, go into retard orgasm mode and bust one of the most satisfying nuts of my entire life. So after getting my pants and crap back on, making out a little more, we decide to leave finally. Now it had been about 30-45 minutes since the movie had started, and at the time we didn't really think much of it. Well, it was a Friday night and a new release. We peeked out from behind the curtain and just about every freaking chair is taken by people watching whatever movie. Well, this is about to be really awkward, we both thought. So I grabbed her hand, busted the curtain open, and we made our way to the exit of the theater, and it was like the whole entire theater temporarily forgot there was even a movie playing. Everyone began laughing, screaming, "Yeah, hell yeah, what the frick," etc., and people started to clap for us. Our faces were red as frick and we just quickly walked out and left the theater as fast as possible. That was how I lost my virginity, and I wouldn't change a goddamn thing. Hey guys, are you enjoying the video? If so, please like and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Anyways, back to the stories. Story 4. When I was 8 years old, on my birthday, I went to one of my friends' houses to play together. Little did I know that play together could have some not so innocent strings attached. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I know it was a Wednesday because it was my birthday in 2002. Now, my friend, let's call her Taylor, because that's her name. She was a nice girl and she was a very spontaneous person, which is to say she had no self-control. She showed me her vagina. I played with it. I showed her my penis. She played with it. She knew what intercourse was because her parents taught her, so she suggested we do it. I asked what it was. She explained what it was and likened a penis to a snail. I didn't really understand, but I wondered if my balls were the shell. We tried, but I wasn't hard enough and it wasn't lubricated enough. She realized it wasn't wet enough and took the initiative to cover it with her whole mouth, which solved both issues. It was then inserted into her vagina. It went in smoothly. There was no thrusting. We didn't know there should have been. Within a few moments I went soft. The snail had retreated out of the 8-year-old's vagina and into its shell. The intercourse ended here. Story 5. 14 or 15. Her older sister put us up to it. It was the 60 and we kind of felt it was our ethical responsibility to experiment. We were really more friends than dating. Her older sister had once showed us how to French kiss by demonstrating on me. We were all quite relaxed about it. I can peg the date roughly by the Beatles, where had just acquired Sgt. Pepper's and were probably listening to it at the exact time. It was at her house. Her parents were out. Her sister was in the living room waiting to hear how it went. What I remember most, the way she folded her clothes and put them into a neat pile as she undressed, and how tightly she squeezed her arms around me. Story 6. It's a 14-hour-old thread, so unless you're browsing the new comments you won't see this. But I just wanted to write this down. I lost mine at 17 to my ex-girlfriend, also 17, in the back of her car. We had only been dating for a month, and I had always planned on waiting until I was in love. But man, was she gorgeous and insanely horny. So, on an empty dirt road overlooking the Atlantic, I lost my virginity to the girl who would end up being my first love. We broke up after one of the best years of my life. It wasn't that we didn't love each other, but our expectations of a day-to-day relationship were different. The breakup changed me, but overall it was good for my growth. It's been more than a few years since, and we both have our own jobs, lives, bills, and are separated by hundreds of miles. We recently reconnected, and I now see her twice a year, once in my city, once in hers. We would never work on a relationship level, but seeing her every so often reminds me of that blissful, passionate love that we shared our senior year of high school. As much as it has hurt me over the years, I would never take back that rainy day with her, where the glass was so fogged up that we had to wait in her car for a bit before we could go back home. I'm still anxious for the next time I'll see her smile, and I don't think I would be able to love someone as much as I do without her. Story 7. I was 15, and I would take back my first time, as much for me as for her. The girl was sweet but a little troubled, and we weren't safe. I asked if I should grab my condom, probably expired and given to me by a guy on the baseball team, and she says, "It'll just be the tip. We're just playing." Eager teenage hormones pumping through us both, and it's quickly more than the tip. Immediately after my 2 pumps and quick pull-out, she begins sobbing. Then she starts opening up for the first time about the years of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse she's had since age 5 or younger. On top of this trauma, she's now worried she'll get pregnant and she doesn't want to have an abortion and go to hell, which is another indication that in the time we've been dating, I know nothing about this girl. I have no clue about her beliefs, values, menstrual cycle, etc., and spend the next 2-3 weeks scared crapless and contemplating what to do if she is pregnant. Get married, drop out and work, suicide. The relationship continued and taught me the lessons of why you shouldn't think you can fix someone else's problems, and how to identify when a girl's drunken mother is likely to switch from verbally tearing her down to physically assaulting her. I was quickly out of my depth, sworn to keep her secrets, and incapable of identifying or implementing any kind of intervention and miracle. This continued for about 2 months until she ended the relationship with me for being the crappy, clueless boyfriend I was. The next time was at 16 with a different girl in different circumstances. We had met at a summer camp, and I'd quickly fallen for her. She was opinionated, enthusiastic, witty, and adventurous. To top it off, she had the greenest eyes I'd ever seen. Green eyes were part of my ideal girl. Brunette, green eyes, petite, confident. My dream girl was the epitome of elegance in all appropriate proportions. I'm not sure that I had this ideal before the week started, or whether she had driven it into my mind by the end of it. But, either way, I was completely and hopelessly attracted to her. Those beautiful green eyes of hers would look up at me so sincerely when I talked to her, that I felt like I didn't have to finish my sentence. She could finish what I was thinking. She already knew me. And when she spoke, we would get lost together talking about all our shared beliefs and ideals, our hopes and dreams. We could say absolutely anything and be perfectly understood. We went everywhere together and went on walks whenever there was time. It didn't matter if it was sunny or raining, because whenever we were together, that was everything in the world in that moment. The day we left camp, I emailed her anxiously, hoping to keep her from forgetting me, and she never did forget. We emailed back and forth multiple times a day, and in between marathon long-distance phone calls. She invited me to one of her school dances, and though it was a 4-hour drive away, I convinced my parents to drive me there for the weekend. That first night, we held hands and watched movies at her grandparents' house until 4 a.m. She went to bed, and I kicked myself the rest of the night for not kissing her. The next day, we would sneak chances to touch arms, bump shoulders, and hold hands. We would do anything just to be closer. As Saga continued, we went to dinner with her friends and went to the dance. The tension and connection between us both was absolutely palpable and urgent. It wasn't until we were dancing in that crowded gymnasium with some dumb pop ballad playing that we actually recreated that camp feeling. The music dissolved and the room melted away. All I could feel was my hand in the small of her back, and her arms gently resting on my shoulders. I was nervously plucking up the courage to bend down and kiss her when she tiptoed up and plucked my head down with her arms still round my neck to kiss me. My mind swam and I basked in the whole moment as I kissed her back, hard, and she swayed in my arms. But as soon as the floodgates had opened, they'd been stoppered by her stuffy friends and the patrolling chaperones. The song ended, and then, a little later, the dance ended and there was only that one kiss. After finally arriving back at her grandparents' house, as we climbed out of the car, before we slipped into their house, I caught her arm and kissed her more thoroughly than on the dance floor. I couldn't let her go tonight without getting at least one more kiss, I told her. She just smiled and said, "That's not the last one," as she walked into the house. Her grandparents had gone to bed, and by the time I had changed and set up my laptop to watch more movies, she had changed into her pajamas, a pair of soft, green, short shorts and a silky kami with no bra. I hit play, the movie started and was forgotten, as she pushed me back onto the couch and bent down, kissing me hungrily. Shortly after that weekend, we agreed our long-distance friendship could be and must be a long-distance relationship. We didn't do it that night there on her grandparents' couch. It wouldn't be until another couple of months and visits, but that night was the first time I released all anxieties and hang-ups and gave everything to being connected and intimate with my partner. 7 years later, I still fall asleep thinking about that night, my dream girl. TL Doctor, all high schools should pass out and instruct on proper prophylactic use. I did much better the second time around, and never dated any 500 feet tall creatures from the Paleolithic era inquiring about Trifidi. Story 8. Probably gonna get buried, but frick it. Story time. Throwaway, just in case. I was 21 or 22. I really can't remember at the moment. Now I should probably mention that I'd had this weird thing that, unless penetration of an orifice other than the mouth hole was made, it was not considered losing my virginity. Had many sexual exploits otherwise. Also should mention that I'd come out of the closet when I was around 17 as gay important. Anyway, I was a member of a group that did acting-related stuff every weekend. And every weekend we'd all hang out after our show at the bar next door. For months, me and this girl, we'll call her Jane, had been talking, and we were extreme best friends who just so happened to make out with each other every time we'd seen each other. As long as I had enough booze in me, it was fun. Come New Year's Eve, Jane and I wound up at the same house party. I wound up getting extremely wasted. Prodip, never mix Jaeger with absinthe. It's liquid brain frickery. And make sure the bud you smoke is actual bud. I wound up passing out in a random chair that was super freaking comfortable. What seemed like millions of years of alcohol-induced coma. Jane finds me. She sits on my lap and asks if I'm okay. Naturally, I respond with a thumbs up. I do inform her that I would appreciate it if she could find me something to wake me the frick up. Without a beat missed, she guided me into a nearby bathroom where she spoon-fed my nose a neat, little yellow powder. Still, to this day, have no clue what it was, and I immediately sprung to life. Jane then suggests that, since she'd found a twister mat upstairs, that we should gather a bunch of people and play strip twister. Blah blah blah, everyone sucked. It wound up just me and her in nothing but skibbas. Finally, everyone left and business was open. Here's where it all went super downhill. We'd taken our clothes off, and I pull out the ancient condom I'd had in my wallet for God knows what reason, and it's not lubed up. No problem, I'll just go down to town for a minute. Clearly she's enjoying it. I didn't think much of it. Finally think she's good and try my damned hardest lol pun. To insert. Now I'm not a bragger, but frick me if I couldn't fit in this chick's hamster hole for the life of me. After aimlessly trying to fit my square block into her triangle, I just say frick it.jpg and eat her out some more. She enjoyed herself. I would rather have stayed in coma land. In the end, I chalked it up to whiskey junk, but in reality I knew for a fact it was because women didn't float my banana boat, and that kinda confirmed it. Do I regret it? No, it was an experience. Would I do it again? I told her yes, but I noped 6 states away from it, so obviously not. Story 9. When I was 14 I had been dating a guy off and on for a year. I thought I was in love, but he was very back and forth with me, which probably just fueled the fire. His best friend was battling leukemia and eventually lost the fight and passed away. During this time he started to push me away. He had come close to having intercourse before, but were young, stupid and inexperienced, and I always said I didn't want to. Because I sensed I was losing him, I decided that maybe having intercourse would fix things. On New Year's Eve we were in his basement watching movies while our parents socialized upstairs. He'd snuck some rum and cokes for us and I was quite buzzed. We started fooling around under a blanket, and then for literally 3 seconds he put his penis in me and then pulled out and said, "This is a bad idea, we shouldn't do this." I was super confused and of course thought I'd done something wrong or he didn't like it. A few days later he broke up with me, which made me more self-conscious. A month or so later he was dating another girl. I was really hurt. Then I remember standing at my locker flipping through a 17 magazine and reading one of those little letters that someone wrote in. The letter was from someone who thought they were pregnant and how wanted to know what the signs were. It listed all the signs. I broke into a sweat and it was like a light bulb turned on. I knew I was pregnant. It was then I realized that the reason he wanted to stop doing it so suddenly was because he finished as soon as he entered me and was too embarrassed to tell me. I was extremely naive about doing it and protection, and I guess he was too because neither of us has a condom or thought much of it. Without telling anyone I bought a pregnancy test and it came out positive. I told my older sister. She was dating his older brother and she wanted to tell my parents. I swore her to secrecy. In my head the only choice was to have an abortion so my parents wouldn't find out. My sister, the guy, and his brother accompanied me to a Planned Parenthood where I had a consultation. That was the only appointment he went to, and then he just stopped talking to me. My sister ended up telling my parents after that appointment because she didn't think we could handle it on our own. My mom took me and I had an abortion. I won't go into detail about that, but it was traumatizing. I became severely depressed and wanted to die. I felt that I'd killed a baby and that I didn't deserve to live. The guy told a bunch of people at school, so the story started circulating. Of course I denied it when someone asked. I couldn't relate to any of my friends anymore or any of the stupid high school drama. Slowly people stopped talking to me because I was just a B to everyone. My mom was more concerned about people finding out than about my mental health. I started to hate my parents. I suffered from depression pretty badly for 6 or 7 years after I had the abortion. I can't say I would take it back. It's a weird thing because obviously it was a horrible experience and I hate that I had an abortion. I still don't really even know what my stance is on abortion. But my life is wonderful currently, and every event in my past, good or bad, led me here, so that makes it difficult to have regrets. Story 10. I'm late to this, but I wanted to share my story. Throwaway here. I lost mine to a long-term girlfriend. We were both virgins, which I feel like made a huge difference. I, male, was 22 and she was 25. She came from a very strict family who guarded her fiercely. She was naturally very honest, naive, and a wonderful person in general. We had been together for a year before it happened. She had never been to sex education, never really learned about her body, and didn't let previous boyfriends go further than kissing. She didn't really understand the feelings of arousal she had when we kissed or messed around, and I was willing to prevent us from going too far just because of my own worries about doing it. I was scared myself, and she was too. When it happened, there was a lot of blood. She cried because of the pain, and it was a little traumatic for the both of us. We had talked about it for a long time before it happened. We really loved each other, and I had proposed to her a few months before, so our relationship wasn't the issue. After the first time, we waited a few days and tried again. I was a guy who watched porn, masturbated a lot, and still didn't quite get what intimate intercourse was about. Hint, porn teaches nothing. She didn't masturbate, never had seen porn, and just thought intercourse was something that came with love. It became beautiful. Two people full of trust with no expectations of how things should be formed their own idea of what doing it in love was to them. We did whatever felt good and whatever made us happy. There were no rules to follow. Sometimes it was intense, sometimes it was beautiful, sometimes it was funny. It was always a wonderful experience, and we smiled and felt the deep love between us the entire time. Intercourse with no expectations of role, or orgasm, or a mood made it this beautiful thing we could do daily. Whatever we felt, we let happen, because we explored it together and made it truly our own. Being virgins and losing our virginity together helped make this possible. That lasted for 4 years until life took us apart. The women I've been with since have never shared that level of non-judgmental, trusting, and beautiful love-making. Intercourse stopped being about love and more about lust and getting off. Partners had fallen into routines because of their own ideas of doing it by culture and by practice. Intercourse for me went from a wonderful thing to share with someone I loved to mutually scratching an itch, even if we loved each other. I regret nothing. We taught each other what physical love was, and I can hold that lesson in my heart forever and hope someday I will meet another person who I can share that lesson with. Hey guys, just found out you watched till the end. That is awesome. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories.